very interested in this Ebionite Jewish Christianity, and there's a book he wrote on Jewish Christianity, but he was the first person that I read that suggested that the stoning of Stephen was actually a replacement for the attack on James. And what they did was they took the death of James and put it in the place of the attack on James in the 40s and made it into the stoning of Stephen. We'll see if that holds up. I think it does, but you don't necessarily have to think that. That's very advanced now in terms of where you can be at this moment, but it's something to think about. Anyway, being on his knees and praying, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do," is exactly how Stephen is portrayed. And the stoning of Stephen makes no sense because, I mean, he's not even a Jewish person, so why should anyone be stoning him? It's just more things that don't add any sensible way together. They were stoning him. Here's an interesting thing. The sons of the Rechab, a son of the Rechab, spoken of by Jeremiah the prophet, cried out, "Cease what you are doing, the just one is praying for you." And then a fuller came and beat out Justus's brains with a club. And he suffered martyrdom and so on, and he was buried on the spot where he fell and is still there today. Now, that beating out his brains with a club actually in the Talmud is a coup de grace situation for stonings that was often delivered, and the Talmud mentioned. But the Talmud isn't big on stoning. The only thing you could be stoned for in the Talmud was basically pronouncing the divine name of God in an illegitimate manner. You know, that's what blasphemy contained. There was no other real sin that you could be stoned for as such. You can look at the Talmud. It's in the tractate Sanhedrin in the Talmud. You can read the different things that they were stoning, and that delivering coup de grace is there. This isn't presented as a coup de grace, but that is obviously what it looks like. He says that he was buried on the spot, and the marker is still there by the temple to this day. Now, I don't know if that's Hegesippus or Eusebius adding that. Both were Palestinians, and so both would have been able to say that. But this is why I originally came out against the James Oshawa, since all these texts say that he was buried at the spot where he was stoned, and there was no Oshawa. But other reasons I came out against it, because I thought the inscription was, as I said in the Los Angeles Times, too perfect. And it's not what people would have said about him in those days. And subsequently, it seems I've been proved correct that the person involved in this has been seen to be involved in some fraudulent activity. I don't want to go further than that, and I think it is a fraud. And I think, as I said in my some discussions, unfortunately, the guy read my book, or the review of my book. He wouldn't have even known who James was before that. But then it clicked, oh my God, I've got ossuaries, plenty of ossuaries with Jacob on them. I can turn this into from a 200-pound ossuary into a 200 million pound ossuary with just a little bit of extra inscription work. And I think that's exactly what happened. But there are some people, as Barnum said, there's a fool born every minute who through wishful thinking, and they're not to be held in contempt because of that. We should sympathize with people who want something to be true. That means well for them, but put their critical facilities in abeyance and are unwilling to see that they're being unfortunately manipulated. In this case, grossly so, by people whom I know are indecent people. People like the editor of the Biblical Archaeology Review who will do anything to sell copies of this magazine. That's all right. Publishers like to sell their papers and magazines. Anyway, so admirable a man, says Clement, thus far Hegesippus. So admirable a man says Clement, was James, and he was celebrated by everyone for his righteousness or justice. And he was of the opinion that the immediate siege of Jerusalem happened to the Jews because of their crimes against him. Well, I don't think this crime against James is on the part of the Jews, because once again we're getting that bias. The Jews are supporting James from what I can see. The crime against him is from an illegitimate establishment that the Jews themselves oppose and later rise up in a war and eliminate. So how can you say the Jews did this to him? It's just, this is the usual kind of thing that passes for, you know, serious history, and it's had terrible deleterious effects, as I've told you. And any good Christian would want to improve this, because no good Christian, as I've said over and over again, really wants the Holocaust on their conscience. And this is the kind of thing that added to the Holocaust. This is what made people kill 1 million babies. You know, nothing else can explain that kind of activity except a deep theological hatred that saw these people as non-people, evil sons of Satan of some kind. And that only comes from this idea that the crimes against these people that the whole Jewish people committed, that's where it comes from. And you know, you say, oh, that's true. Well, you can think it's true. Some of our movie makers do, as I know, think it's true. But I think common sense would tell you that isn't exactly true, given the political situation of the times. And therefore, if you're a person of conscience, and if you've seen the history of the Western world, and you are a good Christian, then you would really want to start to do something, because you would not want this on your conscience, because you have bigots who've said things like this over time, and they've been embedded in the presentation. And I must say, my final argument I've made over and over again to anyone who cares about these things is that if Jesus were alive today, he would expect you to get rid of things from the tradition which celebrates him, that were said and done that were not his, that have been said and done in his name, that he would expect that of you at the very least. Whatever the cost to you personally, if you're a real believer, I would think that he would expect that. And I'm sure he would anyway. He would not like these kinds of things to go down as incitement to murder and riot and killing. So I have no embarrassment about pointing these things out to anybody who wants to listen, because I think they're for good, not for bad, and for the good of Christian conscience, not for the bad of it. And any good Christian would, I'm sure, agree on that. So I don't have any compunction to keep doing it, even though it's not pleasant to hear. People don't like the messenger of bad tidings. Shoot the messenger, it's called. Josephus also has not hesitated to superadd his testimony. So when I see an unjust thing happen to them because of the crimes against James, no, I don't think so. And I reinterpret that in my James book. What I say is being said is because James, as we'll see, was considered not the bastion, but the foundation piece. The righteous one is the foundation of the world, says the book of Proverbs, on which Jerusalem